Good morning, everybody. The Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service now presents a reading of articles and features from the New York Times, Saturday, May 16th, 2026. Your reader is Joe Gibbs, and yes, I went and grabbed the paper. So it's the right paper this week. Yep. Last week we had a little mishap because the store was still selling the Friday paper on Saturday, and that didn't do me any good. So let's take a look here. We did another thing of crosswords. I have no idea if anybody's doing these or not, but I'll tell you what the answers were. So one was gold medlars, and that was like 10 letters, and it's called Alchemist, A-L-Chemist. Place for a post was 4 letters, and that's a blog. The next one was low-level clouds, Straiti, S-T-R-A-I-T-I. This is an interesting one. Black and white debut of 1912. 4 letters, Oreo. I just had an Oreo. Qualifications, 38, list of qualifications. And this was a very long answer. I don't even know how to say this. It says kind as or to maybe. I would just rather say list of qualifications. It says kind or kind as or to maybe. I'd rather just say list of qualifications. 51. Let's see. This one says great find in the candy aisle by the sound of it, and it's called a score, 4 letters, like a score candy bar. So that was that with that. Okay, and let's take a look. I don't even know what we're going to read today. We did a little wing it thing last time where I just found some articles as we went. So let's do that again. What do we have here? Hope everyone is having a good weekend so far. The temperatures are starting to go up, so that's good. It's nice to see, that it's halfway through May, and we're starting to see a couple 70s. I mean, why not? Yep. All right. Let's take a look here. What is this here? Headline from history: Jerry Brown in new incarnation brings celebrity to Oakland race. In May 16th of 98, feeling the need to get back into the action, Jerry Brown, the former governor of California, was running for mayor of Oakland. The Times reported Mr. Brown, the only white candidate among 11 in a city long perceived as an African-American stronghold. The Times wrote, won the election a month later, largely by appealing to Oakland's desire for change. During his 2 terms as mayor, Mr. Brown helped revitalize an abandoned downtown by cutting generous deals with developers. But the mayor's critics argued that his housing initiatives downtown alienated many of his supporters. In 2006, Mr. Brown was elected state attorney general, and in 2010 ran for governor again and won. He is the only California governor to have served 4 terms in total. There you go. All right. What else do we have here? This says here, the headline on this says, no one is leading our health agencies. There's an article here. Over the past 16 months, there has been a revolving door of leaders within the Department of Health and Human Services. Dr. Marty Makary, who resigned as head of Food and Drug Administration on Tuesday, is the latest to learn that it's easier to criticize a system from the outside than to change it from the inside. Excuse me. Scientists, public health professionals, physicians, and members of the public all depend on the FDA. It ensures that our medications are safe and effective, that our food supply is not contaminated, and that our medical devices actually work. For the FDA, as for every government agency, there is good and bad in its history. At times, it's been slow to adapt, limited in focus, opaque about its data, and captive to culture of caution. Unfortunately, despite Dr. Macary's credentials as a creative physician scientist, the FDA became less reliable and transparent under his tenure. Trust in the agency among members of the public and among the scientists who make the work happen has plummeted. With Dr. Macary's departure, the FDA is leaderless. It's not alone. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention hasn't had a permanent director in months, and the most recent one lasted only 4 weeks. There is no Surgeon General over the past year and a half. Many parts of U.S. public health systems have been dismantled. Staff members have been fired, seemingly haphazardly. Funding for core data systems, logistics, and community partnerships has been cut. Research funding is moving at a glacial pace, and the long-standing guidelines have changed on a dime. Now, as our country and the rest of the globe confront a hantavirus outbreak, the all too predictable effects of destruction without a plan have become clear. Who and what can be trusted to keep us safe? It's true that our public health institutions were largely designed for another time. They were not working as well as they could have. The COVID-19 pandemic revealed that they were unprepared for a global, fast-moving, complex health crisis and were too often disconnected from the communities they serve. The systems are extraordinarily hard to move because the people inside them are evil or complacent. But because institutions with decades of regulatory sediment, legal exposure, external influence, and deeply entrenched professional cultures are designed, almost by default, to resist disruption. But changing them is possible, and it is necessary. Dr. Macary missed the opportunity for reform. Successful leadership requires understanding why the resistance to change is present. Sometimes it's a good thing. Systems that oversee drug safety should be predictable and deliberative. It requires valuing historical knowledge while being willing to change. It means clarity of strategy, transparency in execution, coalition, building through deep listening, and a willingness to admit when you're wrong. Dr. Macary can boast some laudable wins from his time at the FDA, such as leveraging artificial intelligence to monitor clinical trials in real time, and important course corrections like the long overdue removal of black box warning on hormone therapy. But overall, we've witnessed the erosion of agencies' prestige and capacity, and consistent standards, showy headlines at the expense of serious priorities, and immense confusion about what scientific evidence does and does not say. Under Dr. Macary's leadership, the agency refused to review a new flu vaccine and then reversed course. Introduced a program meant to speed up the approval process for rare disease medications, and then ran it in a way that opened it up to political interference and shared unsubstantiated hunches, such as linking Tylenol to autism. Along the way, the United States lost countless high-quality staff members of impeccable integrity whose work kept us all safe from disease and from unsafe food and medicines. The consequences of these actions are not abstract. They are measured in lives affected. A person with Huntington's disease who won't be able to get a promising treatment because of regulatory delays. A family who lost trust in vaccine their child needed, or a pregnant woman in an emergency department who needed Tylenol to reduce a fever but didn't get it out of unfounded fears that it could cause autism. This is, of course, on top of families already feeling abandoned by the health system and overwhelmed by medical bills. Dr. Macri reportedly resigned because he did not want to bow to political pressure to authorize the sale of flavored vapes. If this is true, it's an admirable stand, but it also comes too late. Dr. Macri's tenure is just the latest in cautionary tale about performative disruption, not because he challenged the FDA, but because he mistook provocation for the hard, unglamorous work of institutional change. The opportunity now is to rebuild the institutions Americans rely on. Intentionally, that means appointing leaders at the FDA, CDC, and HHS who have experience running complex organizations, who understand the public trust is rebuilt one transparent decision at a time through genuine listening, and who are willing to do what's right when science demands it. Americans' lives depend on it. The decisions on the top determine whether people get safe and effective treatments faster than they do today, whether the food and drugs and devices in our homes are demonstrably safer, and most of all, whether we can trust what we're being told. And if you watch like anything, every commercial is a new drug. Every commercial seems to be a new drug, and the warnings, the side effects, are worse than what your symptom is. You're better off just dealing with the symptom. It's so bad what the side effects are. So you definitely need someone who can take control of that and make sure everything that they're selling, which is a ton of drugs every single day, it seems like something new comes on that they just make up. And who knows how much it's tested. So 4 weekend recommendations from around the newsroom might we suggest. Kicking around a revived fad. Decades after its initial surge in popularity, hacky sack is having a renaissance among today's high schoolers. Small, thwackable foot bags are again aflight in hallways, cafeterias, and impossible to keep on store shelves. Even teenagers themselves have trouble explaining the epidemic, which appears to have taken off in Northeast and spread nationwide with social media. See how a new generation is revitalizing the game at NewYorkTimes.com.style. Wait until my wife hears this. Stargazing on the tracks. Seeking out the stars may be tricky depending on where you live. Train lines around the world are making the hunt a bit easier with rail journeys into dark sky territory in Nevada, New Zealand, and beyond. Dust off your telescope at NewYorkTimes.com travel. Picking up a low-heat love story. These books offer sugar and everything nice without the spice. The New York Times best-selling author Lynn Painter recommended a slate of closed-door romantic comedies that still bring a full dose of swooning, including The Cheat Sheet, a fake dating sports romance by Sarah Adams, She Gets the Girl, and Enemies to Lover's Tale by Rachel Lippincott and Allison Derrick, and Annabelle Moonigan's Beachies, same time next summer. Find your next sweet read at NewYorkTimes.com-books. And then finding a painting's rightful home. About 100,000 art objects were declared stolen in France by the end of World War II at the Musée d'Orsay in Paris. 13 of them are now on display with the hope that visitors may recognize them and help find their rightful owners. The backs of some of the works are also on view to review any potential clues and stamps and stickers affixed to the frames. The museum plans to rotate the selection that is on display from its collection of 225 pieces that were stolen or sold under duress in France during the war. Read more about the works and their provenance at NewYorkTimes.com-arts. Facts of interest. Nearly half of American teenagers now say they are online almost constantly, compared with just under a quarter who said that a decade ago, according to Pew Research Center. I can see that. Qatar is one of the world's largest exporters of liquefied natural gas. Ras Laffan, the country's main LNG production complex, is more than twice the size of San Francisco. That is insane. A production complex, think about that, is twice the size of San Francisco. A complex. That is pretty big. Data from the National Shooting Sports Foundation shows that over 30 million modern sporting rifles, an umbrella term that includes the AK and increasingly popular AR-15, have been in circulation in the United States since 1990. Wow, it's a lot. About 40% of the 70 million people enrolled in Medicare meet the clinical definition of obesity. In 2020, the cosmetics hair Ronald Lauder gave 91 pieces of arms and armor to the Metropolitan Museum of Art, whose arms and armor galleries were then named after him. The first female jockey to ride in a Triple Crown horse race was Diane Crump in the 1970 Kentucky Derby. Julie Crone became the first woman to win one when she took the Belmont in 1993 with Colonial Affair. Okay. Let's take a look here. Okay, so who will win the House in November? Which movie will make the most money at the box office this year? This is a second look little article. What will Elon Musk post about tomorrow? Prediction markets offer Americans a chance to wager on these outcomes and on almost any other topic you can think of. Led by two companies, Polymarket and Kalshi, these platforms have quickly inserted themselves into popular culture. They are making regulators nervous. Suddenly, anyone in the know can play their hand on the open market. You can bet on anything at any time at this point. Here to help. Tips for double dating when your friend's partner is a dud. Leave him home. That's a thought. Leave him home. But let's see what they say. Many of us dream of having couple friends who gel with everyone on double dates, but there are situations are actually rare. You are lucky if you end up with 2 or 3 couples like that in a lifetime, said Richard Slatcher, a professor of psychology at the University of Georgia who has studied couple friendships. More often, when couples get together, somebody's making a sacrifice out of love. But you don't have to resign yourself to a miserable time. These tips will help. Let's see what this says. Pick the right activity. Having dinner with someone who never lets anyone else talk will make the night harder. Maybe this is a couple you go to a basketball game or concert with, Dr. Slatcher said. The same applies to constant complainers. Cater the outing to their interest, a favorite cuisine, an art exhibit, and they might liven up. Don't cook for someone who's already resent having to spend time with, said Dr. Jacqueline Olds, a part-time associate professor of psychiatry at Harvard Medical School. Make as much about the occasion easy on yourself so that you don't feel put upon. You could always take them to like axe throwing. That might change his bad attitude. Focus on your own partner. Dr. Slatcher's research suggests that having couple friends benefits your own relationship. When a double date goes well, couples feel closer to their own romantic partners because they see them through others' eyes, he said. Having a common goal, say not getting baited into political debate, gives you a chance to communicate beforehand. Be in cahoots, Dr. Old said. Say to your partner, when so-and-so takes us into a controversial area, will you help me by changing the subject? And then look at the big picture. Remember, you aren't married to this difficult person. You can survive an hour or two with them every few months. You can make the best of it for the sake of your partner or your friend because it's important to them, asked Christina Brown, the chair of the Marriage and Family Therapy Department at Family Institute at Northwestern University. 9 times out of 10, you can focus on the friend you enjoy, Dr. Old said. Your friend probably knows by their spouse can be a downer. Planning the occasional double date is an act of generosity for what it's worth. How do we know you're not the spouse that someone is dreading? Well, there you go. All right, what else do we have here? Okay. There's something different. Let's read this. This says, now you know the Three Musketeers. Now there's a picture. This says a statue of Count d'Artigan in Maastricht, the Netherlands. He was dramatized in Alexandre Dumas' classic novel. There's a bronze-looking statue. It's really cool with the sword and the whole thing, the hat. It says, was the fourth musketeer dug up? A cliffhanger. It's a big cliffhanger. Okay, from Wolder, the Netherlands. The postcard-perfect Dutch village of Wolder was set aflutter this year when local volunteers made a thrilling discovery in St. Peter and Paul's Church, which for centuries was rumored to be the final resting place of the fourth musketeer from Alexandre Dumas' famous story. There was a skeleton under the heavy gray stones of chapel floor. Expectations were immediately high. Surely the bones belonged to Charles de Batz de Castelmore, also known as Count d'Artigan, who served under King Louis as captain of the Musketeers of the Guard, and was dramatized, fictionalized, and immortalized in Dumas' The Three Musketeers. In the story, he is the fourth musketeer and the main character, joining his friends Athos, Porthos, and Aramis as comrade in arms. The man's swashbuckling fame lives to this day, making his grave a point of avid historical interest. That's why a group of community members set out to see if they could find d'Artigan earlier this year. Joseph Valky, the deacon of church, and other locals formed a nonprofit group that started with the metal detectors, located the old church foundation, and eventually looked underneath some loose floor stones. By February, they unearthed a skull. Jesus. In March, they announced that they had located what might be d'Artigan's skeleton and that tests would be needed to confirm his identity. Now we're waiting, said Valky, said anxiously, explaining that he expects results within the next few weeks. The remains, a man's bones buried with a 17th century coin and a musket ball, have been sent to Dutch University for investigation. Carbon dating, DNA testing, and other analyses are underway. Mr. Valky said a hole remains in the church floor, covered by a plywood platform and a rug to allow mass to proceed. And this place in Maastricht, the larger city, is part of holding their breath. Already, the discovery has drawn a deluge of unaccustomed attention to the village, only a population of 1,500. International media, including BBC, CNN, and even Smithsonian Magazine, have run articles. American and French tourists have stopped by the church to see the site, Mr. Valky said. The university where the bones are being analyzed had to take 4 weeks to build a secure room to do the analysis. He added, afraid that people were visiting the campus to try to see them and that the skeleton might be stolen. Jeez. The university, the Saxon University of Applied Sciences, declined to confirm or deny that. It did confirm that it was involved in investigation into the skeleton, but referred all other questions to the municipality. Let me get a sip here. Mr. Valky and his colleagues think that its bones turn out to belong to d'Artigan. This could be merely the start of a new chapter for Wolder, which sits on the outskirts of Maastricht and just on the Dutch side of the border between Netherlands and Belgium. A local tour operator is exploring the possibility of bus tours out to the church from downtown Maastricht. Belen Ozdemir, who owns the Shell gas station at the end of the church's small lane, wonders if bike routes might add their little village as a stop. Geez, could we find out if it's even real here? You got bikes, you got people doing tours. It's crazy. It's exploding with different things, and we don't even know who this person is yet. It was a surprise, Mr. Ozdemir said, standing behind his counter on a sunny May morning. They were very excited in Wolder. Broader Maastricht is also enthusiastic. Camille Osterwagel, Sr., who owned several local luxury hotels before passing the business to his son, serves as squadron leader for the local branch of the modern-day Musketeers, international organization that holds events and keeps alive Musketeer lore. Now, there is a picture down below here. They show it. There's a hole. You could see a picture from a distance. The hole in the church. It is huge. And then a skeleton that was found under the floor of St. Peter and Paul's Church in Walder, a village in Maastricht, is being tested to see if the Ottoman swashbuckling friend of Arthos, Porthos, and Aramis were waiting. The deacon said, anxiously waiting. You can see the skeleton and the ball, like you would swing at somebody. You could see the skeleton in the hole because there's a picture above it where you can see the skeleton. So there is a skeleton there in perfect condition. Awesome skeleton with the ball like a chain. You'd probably swing at somebody. It's really cool, kind of. The size of the hole in this floor is insane. I know they have a bunch of wood over it, but that'd be like 2 or 3 sheets of like big plywood to cover this hole that they made to find that skeleton. Then this continues. One of his hotels in a nearby castle that served as hospital during the 1673 siege of Maastricht and the Franco-Dutch War, which Ardegen died. It serves a special Ardegen beer, which is made with champagne yeast. He is a French hero, a very important hero, of course, said in Mr. Osterwegel. The find is the talk of the town. Quincy Van Berg works at Grand Cafe Nieuw Bruin, a spot for Dutch mini pancakes that opens to the sidewalk of Maastricht's busiest tourist square. He said John Tanna, a local recording artist, has put out a song to celebrate the discovery called Alleen voor al, and it's or One for All in the regional language. Maastricht is already flooded with tourists, so Mr. Van Berg and other service workers don't expect it to be a game changer for business there. But Walder, perched on the hill above the city and home to bright green fields, red brick buildings, and tidy tile roofs, does not share in that bustle. The walking map sold at Maastricht City Shop sticks to the city's core. Even a more extended fold-out version cuts off Walder Street, stopping just shy of Artisan, named obviously for our hero. Already, the parish has long talked up its possible tie to the famous musketeer. At the entrance to the sanctuary, a statue of Proud looking at the Ardingen in a royal blue sash and jaunty hat stares bravely skyward from a display shelf in the counter. Nestled just below a life-size, realistically painted crucifix, Maastricht, and specifically Walder for the purists, is often the final stop on the route the Ardingen, a hiking, riding, and biking route that commemorates the musketeer's life. This is crazy how this is. It's like celebrity. Yet it's not all that clear whether the results will be conclusive. The Ardingen has known descendants, but the French nobility had often extramarital affairs, so at least possible they are not biologically related to the musketeer. Mr. Velke points out, given that Mr. Velke argues that it will be hard to rule out his identity if the DNA does not match. Still, municipal leaders say proving a DNA connection could be a step in the identification process. Verifying genealogical connections to the Ardingen is an essential part of this process, the local authorities said in an emailed statement. Mr. Velke is hopeful, suggesting that the church and village might eventually plan a museum, and that people could come by to thousands. The church is not usually open during the day, he said. When he does open its doors at 3 p.m. these days, people drop by, but not to pray. Still, he said he doesn't want to get too far ahead of himself. We try to do this step by step, he said. Yeah, you have tours, people are doing bike routes, you have buses coming, people are writing songs. It don't sound like they're getting too far ahead of themselves, though. Not at all. All right, let's see what else we have here. That is definitely a cool story, right? Not something we usually get in here. Something different. That there's a fourth musketeer, and there's a skeleton under the church floor. That is kind of cool, right? All right, let's see. Mm-mm-mm-hmm. Let's take a look. What do we have? Um, today, today I am going to this since we read this on Saturday, and you guys get it on Sunday. When I'm done reading, I have to get ready. My daughter is graduating college today. We're very proud of her, and she actually has a degree in audio production. So if any of you out there listening happen to need someone for some audio production in any capacity, please reach out to us. That would be wonderful. Okay. All right. Let's go to business. What do we have in business? Uh, okay. Wow, Starbucks. This says Starbucks to cut 300 jobs at its corporate offices. Starbucks will eliminate 300 corporate jobs in the United States and close 4 regional offices as part of its turnaround effort, the company said on Friday. It said it would take about $400 million in charges for expenses related to the office closures and severance pay to employees. None of the layoffs or closures affected stores. Huh. In an emailed statement, a Starbucks spokesman said that the actions were part of a Seattle-based company's turnaround strategy in an effort to return the company to durable, profitable growth. You guys charge $10 a coffee. How are you losing? Last year, Starbucks eliminated nearly 2,000 corporate jobs and closed hundreds of underperforming stores. The company said that it would review its international corporate organization and that the additional cuts at those offices were likely, but it did not specify the timing or how many employees could be affected. Regional offices will close in Atlanta, Chicago, Dallas, Burbank, California. Starbucks said, along with its Seattle headquarters, it will maintain offices in New York, Toronto, and Coral Gables, Florida, as well as Nashville, where it is expanding. The layoffs and office closures are part of an effort by Brian Niccol, the chief executive, to put Starbucks on a better financial footing. Since taking over in 2024, he has tackled many long-standing customer complaints, from long waits for coffees to a lack of seating in stores. There are signs that the improvements are bringing customers back. Sales at U.S. stores open for a year or more jumped 7.1% for the quarter that ended March 29, compared with a year earlier. Still, some Wall Street analysts remain wary of the turnaround, noting that last year's sales were particularly weak, so the comparison was easier, and that some customer traffic moved from stores that were shuttered, last fall, right? Moreover, Mr. Niccol is spending a lot of money to update technology, hire more baristas to make coffee, and renovate stores to make them cozier. That, along with higher coffee costs from tariffs, have squeezed operating profits from the company. Well, you guys charge $10 a coffee. I don't drink coffee. I drink Pepsi Zero, which I am going to partake right now. Starbucks can't beat Tim Hortons. We know, I know, you know, everybody know. Starbucks can't beat Tim Hortons. Never going to beat Tim Hortons. Never going to happen. Dunkin', Starbucks, they're not going to beat Tim Hortons. I don't know what they put in Tim Hortons coffee, but it's something crazy because they're lined up around the building for Tim Hortons. They don't line up around the building for Starbucks. They're firing everybody. They don't line up around the building for Dunkin'. They ain't no Dunkin', or they should team up. Starbucks and Dunkin' should become Dunkin' Star and just be one company. They still won't beat Timmy Ho. Okay? Not going to happen. All right. CEOs to testify again over young users' safety. Social media CEOs once again are being called to testify before the Senate in light of mounting legal and public pressure to protect young users on their platforms. The leaders of Meta, Alphabet, TikTok, and Snap were invited to testify next month before the Senate Judiciary Committee. A committee representative confirmed Friday. The hearing comes at an inflection point for social media as court cases, proposed legislation, and increased advocacy place mounting pressure on the tech companies behind these platforms to protect children and teens who use them by making material changes to how they operate. Americans are realizing more and more every day that they cannot trust the CEOs at the helms of these companies because they do not put our safety first, said Sasha Howarth, executive director of Watchdog Group, the Tech Oversight Project. Yeah, it's out of control, right? And it's probably too late. They're going to find a way to see it regardless of what you do. AP ends restructuring with a round of layoffs. Check this out. The Associated Press confirmed it was laying off an unspecified number of U.S.-based journalists on Friday, part of a restructuring announced last month that would turn the news organization's focus away from print journalism and toward visual journalism and other revenue sources. Yeah, so see, everything's online. Everything. And you're saying, well, how can we keep the kids from seeing it? Everything's online. You're even firing people from the Associated Press because you're not going to do print because everything's online. One story to the next, it don't make sense. Of course the kids are going to see everything online because that's all you're doing. You're not putting things back to print. You're not going backwards. You're not saying, hey, we need to keep more on print. We need to try to stop the online. No, everything is online. You're even firing people so that you can just do online. And you're wondering why kids see everything online? Says this is part of the restructuring we announced last month to align our operations with what our top customers need from us today, AP spokesman Patrick Mock said in the email. He declined to give numbers or to say whether the layoffs would conclude on Friday. The layoffs, which had been expected, come about a month after AP, one of the world's oldest and most influential news organizations, offered buyouts to more than 120 journalists based in the States. About 40 volunteered and were accepted according to News Media Guild. Yeah, you get a good buyout. Why not, right? Okay. Caterus to start building LNG site in Louisiana. U.S.-based Caterus has given the go-ahead to build a massive liquefied natural gas LNG facility in Cameron Parish, Louisiana, after raising $9.75 billion in financing for the plant's construction. Mubadala Energy said on Friday. Mubadala Energy, an arm of one of the Abu Dhabi's sovereign wealth funds, holds 24.1% stake in Caterus and was also an equity participant in the project's financing. Energy investor Cambridge and Canada Pension Plan Investment Board, CPP Investments, also provided funding for the plant, with the latter contributing $1.2 billion and increasing its stake in Caterus to 31%. Wow. The export facility called the Commonwealth LNG Project will have a capacity of 9.5 million metric tons per annum. Caterus said it already secured supply deals with companies including EQT, LNG Trading, and Mercuria. Mubadala Energy said in a statement. That's a pretty big project, I'd say, huh? Stocks and bonds. Listen to this. It's going to be a shocker. Oil prices climb on fears of broader energy crunch. Oil prices jumped, stocks tumbled, and bond yields spiked as the markets contended with persistent supply disruptions in the Middle East and the absence of meaningful breakthroughs at the summit in Beijing between Trump and China's leader. The leaders of the world's two biggest economies emphasized stability on Friday as their high-stakes talks ended. Mr. Trump said he had not asked Mr. Xi to pressure Iran to reopen the Strait of Hormuz because I don't need favors. Well, you do need a favor. The Strait, a narrow waterway that carries a fifth of the world's crude oil, has remained effectively closed since the United States and Israel went to war with Iran in late February. This says oil prices climbed again. The price of Brent crude, the international benchmark, jumped more than 3% on Friday to 109.26 a barrel, $109.26 a barrel. Oil prices have climbed 50% since war broke out in the Middle East. That's a lot. West Texas Intermediate, the U.S. benchmark, rose over 4% to roughly 105.42 a barrel. Stocks tumbled as tech rally faded. The S&P 500 fell 1.2% on Friday. A strong rally in tech shares in recent weeks had sent the index to record highs, and it was still able to eke out a small gain this week. The S&P 500 has now risen for 7 straight weeks. It's the longest run since the end of 23. In Asia, stocks fell broadly, led by a sell-off in South Korea, where the benchmark Kospi index tumbled more than 6%. Nikkei 225 in Japan and the Hang Seng in Hong Kong both fell nearly 2%. The selling spread to markets in Europe, the SOX 600, a broad European index, declined 1.5%, and the FTSE 100 in Britain fell 1.7%. The DAX in Germany dropped more than 2%. This says bonds had a bad day. The 10-year U.S. Treasury yield, which underpins borrowing rates from consumer mortgages to business loans, jumped above 4.5%, its highest level in a year. It has risen more than half a percentage point since the start of the war in Iran, and roughly half of that increase is attributions to rising inflation expectations based on prices in inflation-protected government securities. Gas prices remained elevated. The average price of a gallon of regular gas held steady at $4.53 on Friday. According to the AAA Motor Club, gas prices are up 52% since the war began. Gas prices typically lag behind changes in oil prices by like a few days. The average price of a gallon of diesel fuel fell a penny to $5.66, 50% higher than when the war started. What they're saying, expect a protracted energy shock. Markets have lost momentum because Mr. Trump has said the United States does not need the Strait of Hormuz to be reopened. Analysts at Deutsche Bank wrote in a research note. Mr. Trump's comments have added to investors' fears that the waterway will remain blocked for some time, which would lead to a more protracted energy shock, they added. All right. That's not good. In other news, a dog finds a home. I mean, everything is so rough. Everything is very rough. Well, seeing that it's Saturday here, I don't, obviously, you won't get this till Sunday again, but boy, I hope the Sabres win tonight. Be nice. But at least they made the playoffs. You know, can't complain if they don't go to the Cup. They haven't been to the playoffs in, 14, 15 years. So at least they gave us something to watch, something to hope for. and some kind of new energy. Hopefully that continues on next season one way or another, right? All right, so I came on to this other the crossword for this week. Man, I wish I knew if you guys were finding out these answers or not, but I'll just do it. Okay, so number 10, it's 4 letters. It's a 4-letter answer. Bird on the South Carolina state corridor. Oh, that's interesting. What is the bird on the South Carolina state corridor? All right. And then there's another one, 4 letters. Roman goddess who drives a 2-horse Charlotte. No, sorry, chariot. Yeah, I need new glasses. Roman goddess who drives a 2-horse chariot. 4 letters. Who is that? Okay. And here's one. This says it's 5 letters. It says aid in making salsa. What's an aid in making salsa that's 5 letters? What is that? And here's one that is 7. 1, 2, 3. 7 letters. And it says difficult effort. What's a difficult effort that's 7 letters? Okay. And this one here. It says this is a cattle call. It's 9 letters. What's a 9 letters for cattle call? Well, people, what is 9 letters for cattle call? And let's see here. All right, this says going back ages, and it's what is 9 letters for going back ages? So there you go. There you go. There's something to do there. Rewind a little bit if you need to rehear what those were. All right. Oh, what do we want to talk about? Almost getting to that time where we're going to start cooking here. World Cup's coming. I don't know if I have how many soccer fans we have out there. What country are you guys rooting for? Obviously the U.S., but I would have rooted for Italy, but they didn't make it again. I will be definitely rooting for the United States and England. I'm a huge Manchester United fan. I even have their tattoo on my arm. So I'll be rooting for England and the U.S. We'll see if any of them could make it. It's a tough tournament for sure, and I'm looking forward to it. It starts in June. All right, and there's always a huge page here, and it gives you like an area. And this just tells you about Arkansas. You don't hear a lot about Arkansas, do you? You don't even say Arkansas. How many times do you say Arkansas in your lifetime? Once, maybe, twice. This says, how did Bentonville, a town of 61,000 in northwest Arkansas, become a national mecca for cycling and home to a world-class art museum? The answer largely, are you ready? It's Walmart. The retail giant, which is headquartered here, and is the founding family, the Waltons, have funneled millions into Bentonville's impressive attractions, which continue to expand. There's an undeniable blue and yellow corporate veneer to some aspects of the city. This June alone, the Crystal Bridges Museum of American Art will add another 114,000 square feet. The new Oz Trails Bike Park, opening during Bentonville Bike Festival, will unveil a mountain bike chairlift in 20 miles of trails. Wow. And the Bentonville Farm Festival will return to town. But beyond the obvious draws, which made it one of Times Travel's 52 places to go in 26, it's the enthusiasm and hospitality of those who live and ride through Bentonville that have created a charming, accessible destination in Ozark Mountains. Oh, that's kind of cool. Walmart. Who would have thought that the owners of Walmart would have made this town something worth going to? That's really cool. All right. So let's take a look and see what there is to cook. Okay. What is there to cook, people? Is there anything we feel like cooking? You can't just order out all the time. Come on, put the phone down and pick up the spoon and the pan, and let's see what we can make, okay? Says the one that's ordering Chinese food tonight. Cut me a break. All right. Okay. Let's check this out. Linguine with shrimp and lemon pistachio breadcrumbs. And that looks like a different dish. Not going to lie. Linguine with shrimp and lemon pistachio breadcrumbs. All right. Colu Henry's linguine with shrimp and lemon pistachio breadcrumbs. It's so lovely. The garlicky shrimp pasta is dry enough, but what really makes a dish shine is the pancreato topping. That bright mix of finely chopped pistachios, lemon zest, and fresh mint adds a lot of texture and sparkle. And so, based on reader comments, I suggest doubling that topping to ensure that each twirled forkful is plenty lemony. Okay. What are we going to do here? What do we need? For the pasta, we need kosher salt, 1 pound of linguine, pound of large shrimp, peeled in divine, freshly ground black pepper, a 1/4 cup olive oil plus more for drizzling, and 3 garlic cloves, thinly sliced, 1/2 teaspoon of red pepper flakes, 1 cup of chicken stock, 4 tablespoons unsalted butter, 1/2 cup roughly chopped Italian parsley, 1/2 lemon for serving, flaky salt for serving. It's optional. That was for the pasta, okay? Everything I just said was for the pasta. This is for the breadcrumbs. 1 tablespoon olive oil, 1/3 cup of panko breadcrumbs, 2 tablespoons of raw pistachios, finely chopped. Chop them up, people. 1 teaspoon lemon zest from 1 lemon, and 3 tablespoons finely chopped mint or Italian parsley, and flaky salt. There's 5 directions here. So let's take a look and see. Bring a large pot of well-salted water, 2 heaping tablespoons kosher salt to about 7 quarts of water to a boil. Add pasta and cook until it is just short of al dente. According to package directions, reserve 1 cup of the pasta cooking water and drain. All right? And that was number 1. Meanwhile, prepare the breadcrumbs. Heat 1 tablespoon oil in a 12-inch skillet with sides over medium-low heat. Add the panko breadcrumbs and toast, stirring frequently until golden, about 2 to 4 minutes. Transfer the crumbs to a small bowl and toss together with pistachios, lemon zest, and mint, and season with flaky salt. Set aside and wipe out the skillet with a paper towel. Season the shrimp well. This is 3. Season the shrimp well with salt and pepper. In the skillet, heat 1/4 cup olive oil over medium heat. Add the shrimp and saute until just cooked through, about 1 to 2 minutes aside. Remove with a slotted spoon and set aside. Stir in the garlic and red pepper flakes and cook for 1 more minute, and making sure the garlic doesn't burn. Don't burn it, people. Number 4, add the chicken stock. Raise the heat to medium-high and bring to a simmer. Scrape up any brown bits that have formed at the bottom of the pan and cook until reduced by half, about 3 to 4 minutes. Stir in the butter and cook until it's melted and the sauce becomes emulsified. Number 5, turn the heat to low. Add the pasta, shrimp, and parsley to the skillet and toss until glossy with sauce. Add some of the reserved pasta water if needed to loosen up the sauce. Top with half the breadcrumbs and a good squeeze of lemon. Serve in bowls and pass the remaining breadcrumbs at the table. Drizzle with additional olive oil and season with flaky salt if desired. And there you go. There is your linguine with shrimp and lemon pistachio breadcrumbs. What else do we have here? Baked oatmeal breakfast bars. They don't look bad. Baked oatmeal breakfast bars. As long as they're not bland. You know what I mean? Like, that can be really good if it has nice oatmeal-y taste. Like an oatmeal cookie, right? It's got to have good taste, though. If it's like dry and bland, that's not good. There's another dish here. 1 pot za'atar chicken and rice. That doesn't look bad. There's also 1 pan dumplings with greens. Dumplings could be good. Maybe I'll order some dumplings at my Chinese food today after I'm telling you all to cook. It's one of those do as I say, not what I do or something. Is that what they say? There's a honey sesame halloumi spinach salad. I don't know about that one. How about some breaded pork chops and fried potatoes or something? I don't know. That sounds good to me. Or how about a beautiful New York style pizza pie? That sounds good to me too. A big old slice, crunchy on the bottom, delicious pizza pie. That's fun. So, we've run out of time again, people. Very nice to read to everyone. I hope you guys are listening and that I'm doing the stories you want to hear. Please let us know, because I am happy to do whatever we need to do. So you've been listening to the reading of New York Times for Saturday, May 16th, 2026. For more information, call 716-821-5555. That's 716-821-5555. Your reader has been Joe Gibbs. Please let us know if you need anything or you want any changes. I am happy to adjust. Thank you.